Third day without power. You're sitting in your apartment, barely lit by a flickering candle. You have a 5-day supply of water, some canned goods, a basic first aid kit, and a flashlight. You prepared. You watched the videos. You stocked up on provisions. And you made a plan. All things considered, you feel relatively safe. Suddenly, you hear a knock at the door. You go over, look through the peephole, and see your neighbor from the 3rd floor. It's that man you used to exchange a quick greeting with in the elevator. A normal guy. He worked in construction. He has a wife and 2 young kids. But now, through the lens of the door, his face looks pale and distorted. He says in a hoarse voice, "Listen, do you have any water? We ran out, and the kids haven't had anything to drink since this morning." At that precise moment, the true challenge of survival begins. It's not the moment when you learn to start a fire or filter rainwater, but the moment when you make a decision that your life and others depend on, and where any answer can be a fatal mistake. If you give him the water, he will remember it and come back tomorrow, and the day after, and maybe bring others. The news that you have supplies will spread through the entire building in less than an hour. In a couple of days, you won't have a neighbor asking for help, but 10 desperate people at your door, and you only have supplies for 1. If you don't give him the water, he will also remember it. And when the situation becomes even darker, and hunger really bites, that neighbor who was once a peaceful man could become the biggest threat to your safety. Today, we're going to analyze the psychology of social collapse. We're going to identify the 5 types of people who will emerge in a crisis, and why your neighbor, that exemplary citizen from yesterday, is the most immediate danger you must learn to manage. I didn't make this video to turn you into a ruthless hermit, but to help you understand that survival isn't just about calories and gallons of water, but about social intelligence and absolute discretion. Let's begin by analyzing the first profile, the denialist. This is the largest group at the start of any disaster. These are people who see the lights go out and the ATMs stop working, but are convinced that by dinner time, everything will be back to normal. They have no supplies because they believe preparing is for paranoid people. The denialist is dangerous, not because they're aggressive, but because their lack of preparation quickly turns them into a desperate beggar. When 48 hours pass, and government help doesn't arrive, the denialist goes into shock, and is the first to start knocking on the doors of neighbors who do seem to have things under control. Their desperation is contagious, and they will be the first to break the neighborhood's peace by asking for what they couldn't be bothered to get. The second type is the looter out of necessity. Unlike common criminals, this profile consists of people who were honest until 3 days ago. It's the father we mentioned at the beginning. His morality crumbles at the same rate as his children's stomachs empty. The looter, out of necessity, doesn't want to hurt you. No, but is willing to, if they believe it's the only way to save their family. This is the hardest profile to manage, because it evokes empathy. But remember a hard rule. You cannot feed an entire building from a single apartment's pantry. Every time you open the door to help one of these profiles, you are marking your home with an invisible target that says "food here." The third profile is the opportunist, or the predator. These are individuals who already had antisocial or criminal tendencies before the crisis, but who now feel freed from the law. For them, collapse isn't a tragedy, but an opportunity. They aren't looking for food to survive the day. They are looking to accumulate power, supplies, and control over others. They will organize quickly, probably in groups of 3 or 4 people, and will attack points that seem weakest. If your denialist neighbor knows you have food and mentions it to the opportunist by mistake or out of spite, you will have become the next stop on their looting route. The fourth type of person is the self-appointed leader. In every crisis, someone emerges who wants to organize a neighborhood committee, distribute tasks, and above all, inventory everyone's supplies for fair distribution. Be very careful with this profile. Although their intentions may seem noble, their ultimate goal is to collectivize your personal effort. If you spent months saving and secretly storing food, the leader will insist it's your moral duty to share it with those who did nothing. Joining a common defense group is smart, but handing over control of your supplies to a neighborhood committee is, in practice, giving up your life insurance. Finally, the fifth profile is the invisible survivor. This should be you. This is the person who has supplies, but no one knows it. They don't turn on unnecessary lights. They don't cook food that gives off strong smells that travel through the hallways. And they don't boast about their preparation on social media or with acquaintances. The invisible survivor understands that in a crisis, information is as valuable as water. If people believe you're suffering the same hunger and thirst as them, they will leave you alone. If they notice your cheeks aren't sunken and your trash doesn't consist only of empty containers from weeks ago, you will become a suspect. Why do we say the neighbor is the main threat? Because the neighbor knows your routine. They know what time you get home, how many people live with you, and most importantly, they know where you live. A stranger on the street is a danger you can see coming, but the neighbor is the one on the other side of a thin brick wall. Physical proximity creates extreme vulnerability. In a social collapse, borders aren't the country's boundaries, but the frame of your front door. To survive social interaction in a crisis, you must master the art of the gray zone. When the neighbor knocks on your door, asking for water, your response should be neither an emphatic yes nor an aggressive no. You must appear as desperate as they are. An effective response would be, "I'm so sorry, we're in the same boat. We only have half a bottle left to get through the night, and we don't know what we'll do tomorrow." You need to practice a worried face and have a prepared script. If they see you strong and calm, they'll know you're lying. Empathy is a virtue in peacetime, but in the early days of a total collapse, it can be a fatal weakness. Another critical point is waste management. If in the midst of a famine you take bags full of freshly opened canned goods out to the hallway or common dumpster, you're sending a radio signal to every predator in the area. You need to process your trash inside your home, crush the cans, hide them, and only dispose of them when it's safe or in a way that they can't be traced back to your door. Similarly, the smell of hot food can travel entire floors. If you're going to cook, do it at night, with the windows closed, and using methods that don't produce visible smoke. The physical security of your home is important, but psychological security is even more so. Do not let anyone cross the threshold of your door. Once someone enters and sees the order, or the inventory you have, envy and survival instinct will do the rest. Your home should look neglected from the outside, but just as dusty and dark as the others. Discretion is your best armor. What can you do today to prepare for this human factor? First, make a mental map of your neighborhood. Identify who might be denialists, who has children, and could become a looter out of necessity, and who gives you a bad feeling that fits the opportunist profile. You don't need to write it down. Just have it clear. Second, establish trust agreements with one or two people at most, preferably family or very close friends, for mutual defense, but keep your main supplies out of sight, even from them. Third, inspect your home from the hallway. Does light show under the door when you turn on a flashlight inside? Can your conversations be heard too easily? Take steps to seal those information leaks. Fourth, practice your response to a request for help, and talk with your family and agree on a single story. We have nothing. We're scared, and we're waiting for help like everyone else. Survival is a game of endurance, and often, the one who survives isn't the strongest, but the one who best knows how to go unnoticed. Darkness is not your enemy. Noise and ostentation are. The moment the stores close and hunger appears, the man who helped you carry your grocery bags yesterday could be looking at your door with very different eyes. Prepare for the darkness, but prepare even more for the people living in it. If this analysis on the psychology of collapse was useful to you, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming guides on home defense and emergency protocols. Give this video a like so this preparedness community keeps growing, and leave us a comment answering, have you ever thought about how you would react if a neighbor knocked on your door, asking for your last supplies? I'll be reading your ethical dilemmas and strategies. See you in the next video. Stay invisible and be ready.